I am with dear friend Paige DeMacos, the Draft Network. Now, you don't know this story, Paige, but a while you used to say President Derek Hall. Then we were told, oh, he's now the CEO of the Diamondbacks. We were told to say President and CEO of the Diamondbacks. Then we were supposed to say President Michael Bidwill. But then once he became full owner, we were told stop saying President, just say owner Michael Bidwill. And it was a big deal, and teams would get really upset at us. And now, about 4 months ago, we found out he's still President Michael Bidwill, and there was a big hubbub that no one said President. So what's your official title? Because I want to get it right. Are you CEO and owner of the Draft Network? Are you just CEO, or are you just Paige? Are you Your Highness? How do we start this?
This is so funny. See, this is a very good example of the difference between men and women, right? Like, I have no ego about my title. I could be introduced as Jenny from the block and I wouldn't care, right? Like, I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like, yes, I'm CEO and I am the owner of the Draft Network, but normally I'm just letting people introduce me as Paige DeMacos and CEO. So that's good. That's good enough. I don't need all the titles. I'll let all the boys argue about that.
Okay, so Doug and Jenny from the block here to talk about the draft on Unplugged. Bigger story. How's your brother? How's your family? How's life?
Family's good. Life is good. We're going to be out in Pittsburgh this upcoming week for the NFL draft. So really excited about that, hosting a big event. My brother's involved in, so he's got STK coming out to do a bunch of food and drinks for the prospects and their families. So it's something I've done over the last few years. It's kind of the culmination of what is an exceptionally stressful time for all these young men as they go through what is a very grueling process. And so we created an activation, the Draft House, just to let people kind of come and relax and know that there's no pressure to just be on, right? So like, come, bring your family, enjoy yourself, relax, create content if you want to, don't if you don't want to. And so I'm really excited that my brother's involved in that this year. And Pittsburgh seems like it's going to be an amazing draft city. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Obviously, everybody wants huge draft questions, and I have a bunch of them. But from one entrepreneur to another, I always want this show to be uplifting. You know, I mean, I got fired from almost a dream job and then had to start something from scratch. And it's just me versus the world. You went a different direction. A, you weren't fired because you're better at your job than I was. And number two, you're just the columnist. You're just the writer. And I'm sure somebody's going to be mad that I said just, but it wasn't like you were as huge as you should have been. The station completely underutilized you. And then you've just exploded this thing. What was the key for you, or what was your vision, or how did you do this with the Draft Network? Because I'm not going to Pittsburgh. I don't have any parties. No one's coming over to drink my beer in Pittsburgh.
Honestly, Doug, I took what I learned, and I was really appreciative of everything, obviously, that I did at Arizona Sports. But I always knew that I wanted to cover nationally the NFL, especially. I grew up in Chicago, and I understood the demand that existed in the major markets that doesn't really, still to this day, doesn't exist in Arizona, as far as how the teams are covered and just the amount of emphasis and just overall media coverage there is on a day-to-day basis on any of these teams, right? It's just a totally different ball game. And so for me, I always knew that I wanted kind of the challenge of being able to cover the whole league. And the Draft Network was honestly something that I got brought into, and I was really kind of an outsider because I came from traditional football coverage where I had been inside a locker room and covering the team as kind of a beat reporter, and then doing obviously I started a lot of the social media things that the station was doing. And then I was doing other things in fantasy football and gambling with CBS and Fox, but I didn't cover the draft space, and it was really untapped at the time. And now you fast forward to now where everybody and their mom is doing a way too early mock draft. And in 2019, everybody was making fun of us for doing it. And I'm like, it's so funny to have watched literally the entire evolution of this coverage of the sport that I love, to where now there is no off season. There's 3 weeks in July where there's not anything going on when the teams are gone. And somehow every year it manages to either be Aaron Rodgers' 20th decision on whether he's playing football, or we're talking about some massive trade that ends up happening right as before we go into training camp. So it's just become football all the time, 12 months a year. It's reflected in the coverage, even just on ESPN. There's NBA and NHL playoffs, and it's still 50 to 60% coverage of NFL offseason. Yep. And that's just, it's the number one sport in America. It's not slowing down. The international growth is just kind of hitting the tip of the iceberg. And so, you know, to me, it was use the skills that I have to, you know, better go take an opportunity outside and just continue to push this industry forward. And that's what I've done. So it's been cool. And I'm excited to be out in Pittsburgh. It'll be literally every draft since 2019.
I was on 12 News today and I had to do something I've never done. I said, Cam Cox, you were right. I was wrong. So I'm going to say this now because I want you to hear it. Like, you know this, but people that are listening don't know it probably to the extent I'm about to explain it. But I want to set up why I changed my mind, and you'll quickly know where I'm going. Both parents are retired military and retired St. Louis cops. Who is a St. Louis cop, lives and retires? First time he touches a football, he runs for a 70-yard touchdown. He was dunking in the 8th grade. He had a back-to-back state championships his junior and senior year. He lettered in basketball. He ran the 100 and was the state champion in Missouri for that. 405 high school GPA. Only running back with 40 touchdowns the last 2 years. Second place was 32, so he was 8 ahead of second place. Nobody in Notre Dame history, which still shocks me, ever won the Doak Walker Award before him. He had 1 college fumble, and he's one of 4 running backs in the last 20 years to run a 4.36 and being over 210 pounds. So I say, I think the Cardinals should actually draft him at number 3, and I want to shoot myself in the foot for saying that. It's a running back to a bad team. That does you no good, yet I think they should do it anyway. Now your turn.
So I just went on the Arizona Cardinals podcast this past week, and I said the exact same thing, Doug. I said, listen, really? I said, listen, if there's any organization that understands having a face of the franchise that isn't the quarterback, it's this one. They had Larry Fitzgerald as the face of their franchise for almost 2 decades, and they're in search of that person because Kyler never really became the face of the franchise. And it's very hard to kick the can down the road to next year to say, hey, we're going to get our quarterback next year. Fans don't work like that. That's not how this works. And I understand that Jacoby Brissett or Gardner Minshew are not going to be your guy of the future that you're going to be buying into. So you can't make them your face of your franchise. But you know who you can? Jeremiah Love. He is everything you want and more from a football player. He checks every box. He is to use the word Marcus Freeman used, a unicorn, because he not only is so explosive as a running back, but he also is unbelievable as a pass catcher. And you also have to factor in that I think probably the part of him that I have bought into the most is the football character. And that is that in the NIL era, an era where everybody, if they are not the man, if they don't get everything they want, they transfer. And this is a kid who was the man, was the best player on the football field. And Marcus Freeman got him to agree to splitting touches with Jadarian Price, who's also probably going to go in the first round, and got both of them to say, hey guys, the best thing for this team is for you guys to split carries. And I don't know that there is an example of that in the modern age of football right now. And so to me, that tells you the type of man he is, the type of teammate that he is. And in this era of football, it's non-existent. So I don't know how you could pass on him. I really don't. He's that good of a player. He's that good of a talent. And if it's possible, his character off the field is even better than who he is on the field, which is nuts.
Well, even though I agree with all that, and like, listen, I'm the one that brought it up, so now I'm playing devil's advocate of my own opinion. But I am afraid that they have Paige DeMacco starting at center, and I'm the starting guard, and we're going to go draft this running back. I mean, is there such a thing as too early? Is quarterback and running back the only positions in the history of sports where you say, I'm not ready for that yet?
Yeah, and there's a part of me that goes, yes, especially with quarterback, because to me, quarterback's the most dependent position in professional sports. Mm-hmm. It is dependent on everything around it, coaching, scheme, talent, every part of it. And if you are going to put your team in a position, right, to better be prepared for next year's draft class of quarterbacks, there's no better way to put yourself in that position by getting the right guy offensively and skill set wise with Jeremiah Love. And listen, I get it. I understand you can make an argument that the Cardinals could take a lot of players at 3, because guess what? This is a team that has a lot of holes and they have the need to go get a guy. But to me, at 3, you want to make sure you hit. You have to hit. This cannot be a pick that you're 5 years from now looking back on and going, oh no, this wasn't the right pick. And to me, that's Jeremiah Love. I have the most level of confidence that guy is going to be a guy that gets to his second contract and is the type of player that makes an impact immediately, no matter what line he's running behind.
I'm leading you somewhere. Is it unequivocal that the 2027 draft is better than the 2026 draft?
So I struggle to say yes emphatically, because a lot of the players that we thought were going to come out this year are now guys that are potentially coming out next year. Now, there are some of those guys that will come out, but there's also guys like for this year's class, a Garrett Nussmeier, who had a 2024 year that was spectacular, a top 10 pick, comes back and now is not even being discussed, right? Probably going to go somewhere between the 3rd and the 5th round. You have to be Cade Klubnik, another example. Clemson, you coming into the year, a lot of excitement. So yes, there are more names. Yes, there are guys we're really excited about. Yes, there's a guy with the last name Manning that everybody's really excited about, okay? But I caution everyone, because I've heard this song and dance before many times in covering this draft and the draft cycle and seeing how things go. You cannot guarantee yourself that next year's class is going to be this amazing class, because they could disappoint as well, like we had this year. Are there guys we really like? Yes. Are there guys we're excited about? Yes. But that was the same way it was last offseason coming into this year, where we thought, wow, look at all these quarterbacks. And then it ended up being a more bleak class than we were expecting. So, yeah, I do think when it all shakes out, next year's class will have more guys, just because there's more to the class to begin with, and there's guys that are going to have to come out eligibility wise. So I think we will be looking at a lot of top tier talent next year, but don't bank on having 10 guys. It's not happening. Your best bet is the class that we had just not that long ago with Drake May and Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix. Getting 4 guys in the first round is crazy to hit on that many dudes that early on. So that's a best case scenario for.
So that was an unequivocal. I think so. I think 2027 is better. Yep. So question number 2, will Ty Simpson be available at pick number 34?
I think so. I really do.
Wow. Because you know where I was going is everybody that says 2027 is a better draft. Why would you trade up this year for a quarterback that you feel pretty good about, is a definite first round talent, but you have to trade back in? So if you're the Cardinals, why trade 27 capital for the 26 draft? But if you think Ty Simpson could be there at 34, well, then it's a dumb question, right? I mean, why wait?
I think there's a good chance that we're going to get to pick 16, right? And then pick 21. And I hope this doesn't happen, but I've covered this draft long enough to know this. There's always somebody in the green room waiting. And they always invite somebody, Will Levis of a couple of years ago, where the league has a consensus on them. And then there's the what I call the league office consensus. And this feels very similar to that, where the league office and the outside world and maybe ESPN and Dan Orlovsky and some of these other guys think one thing, but everybody in the league has question marks, and rightfully so, because Ty has good tape. Ty has bad tape. Ty's only had 15 starts. He's got, I can put a bunch of boxes negative and as many on the plus side. I've also had the opportunity to interact with Ty. I've interviewed him. I think as far as what can prepare you for the NFL, being the quarterback at Alabama is probably the closest thing, because there's so much scrutiny there. You can't go to the gas station without just being harassed, right, nonstop, which is good preparation for being a pro and how your life is going to be and what the expectations are. So I like Ty Simpson. I just don't think when you're talking about a first round quarterback, right, and a guy and what the expectations are, I find that the NFL is going to have a pretty tough time saying emphatically this is a first round guy when you consider where Tyler Shutt went last year and Jackson Dart went last year and some of these other guys who had similar question marks coming out or even better tape and more consistency. So I like Ty. I think there's a good chance that if we get past 16 and then 21 where the Pittsburgh Steelers are, you're going to be finding it hard to find him a landing spot, because there's not going to be teams that are needy of a quarterback. And so are the Cardinals.
Do you care about the 5th-year option? Would you trade in the first round to get him if you're the Cardinals so you have 5 years? Or do you just sit and wait and take best player available at 34?
I think it depends on your evaluation. If you think he's a guy that can start for you and is a guy that's going to compete for the starting job right away, then yes. If you are unsure, which it seems like most teams are on the fence, I don't know that they care enough to make sure, especially when it's coming to having to trade away future capital to get back in. I don't know that they're going to make that move. They might. Just depends on what the offering is and who else gets in the mix. The Jets are going to be very interesting, obviously, with the 2 first-round picks. They always can mix it up and surprise
And now the Giants
everyone.
with 2 first-round picks.
Correct.
Granted, they have Jackson Dart.
Yes, but there are 5 or 6 teams now with 2 first-round picks and multiple teams on the outside looking in. So this is one of those classes where I won't be surprised no matter what happens, because you could be at pick number 2 and Woody Johnson goes into the Jets scouting staff and says, guess what? I want my quarterback. And they're sitting there saying, this is ridiculous, but this is how this goes in a lot of these organizations. Owners get nervous. Owners get antsy. They fall in love with the player for whatever reason, and they push their scouting staff to make a call because they don't want to not have a quarterback. And the Jets are the perpetrator of that more often than not. So I would not be surprised. But if it's value-wise, I could see him slipping to the end of the first round, beginning of the second round, and then it becomes very interesting for Cardinal fans.
Who is the best receiver in the draft, and who is the first receiver you would take? And I'm wondering if that's the same person.
I think Jordan Tyson's film is unquestionably makes him the best wide receiver in this class. I think everything else that's been discussed about Jordan Tyson has nothing to do with the film. I'm not really quite sure why Daniel Jeremiah answered a question very weird on a national television show about Jordan Tyson and kind of started this whole conversation about his football character. I spent a lot of time around him. I spent a lot of time around ASU. I was at the ASU Pro Day. I interacted with all his teammates and him. Jordan Tyson's a ball player. He's had some unfortunate injury issues that have happened, but he tried to play through his hamstring injury and re-aggravated himself. So I think that's where you look at the player. And to me, the tape's unquestioned. Like, he's the number 1 wide receiver if you're looking just at raw talent and what he did. And Sam Levitt was up and down, if we are honest, quarterback play-wise. So I think it's Jordan Tyson for sure. And then you asked me who I would pick. Is that what you said? Who I would pick if I had?
And that's why, because you're with me. I think Tyson's far and away the number 1 wide receiver, but okay. I would take Tate, I think, if I got a pick and I need a wide receiver. I'm not following Daniel Jeremiah in the sense of I don't think the kid's tough, but a lot of people thought I was nuts when it came to the Bosas. And I said, I'm not taking Kyler Murray number 1, but I'm not taking Bosa number 1 either. And here's why. I think the family has bad genes. They're unbelievable athletes, but Bosas get hurt. And I look at Jordan and I'm just kind of worried. I just think, listen, it's crazy you've been hurt this much. It's not your fault. I love the way you play. But when I've got the first pick or an early pick and I have a receiver need, I would take Tate before I would take Tyson. but I would take Tyson over Lemon because of size. So that's why I separated the two questions. I wanted to know from you, who's the best receiver? We agree, but who's the first one you would take if CEO of the Draft Network is running a draft?
Yeah, I'd have to take Cardinal Tate.
Okay.
Just because when you talk about those lingering hamstring injuries, it's something you have to be concerned about. You think about a guy like a Mike Evans who's had continuous injuries to his hamstrings and how long he ends up sitting out, right? Once you aggravate something,
Yes.
it's easier to re-aggravate it. That's just how your body works, especially with those types of injuries. So I think Jordan Tyson, film-wise, is the best wide receiver in this class, but you cannot not factor in the injury component of it, especially when you're talking about using more than likely a top 10 pick to grab this player. Carnell Tate is a kid from Chicago. I love his toughness. If you consider everything that's happened to him in this young man's life, I mean, the first day he's on campus, he finds out his mom's been killed. I mean, he has had a tough journey to this point, and he has had the utmost respect from that entire wide receiver room, from Brian Hartline, from Ryan Day, who are all people that are really good at evaluating talent. So I like Carnell Tate a lot. The separation of the tape is not that much different. Jordan Tyson really was just the man for longer because the wide receiver room didn't look like Ohio State's.
I'm going to repeat a question you were on a couple months ago, but now I'm going to ask again now that you probably feel more strongly. How many first-round picks from Arizona State?
2. Maxi Anacher for sure, first rounder as well. I can't imagine.
You thought so last time. You threw the hammer down this time.
Yeah, no, I can't imagine. One, that comes from, I had the opportunity to speak to Max one-on-one at the ASU Pro Day. Great story, great kid, immigrant family from Nigeria. Father came over here, worked his ass off. He's got all the motivation in the world. You consider how little time he's actually been playing football, which is totally insane. Just the fact that he picked up football at such a late stage of his life. He's still got so much love for the game because of that. He's still kind of falling in love with the game in an innocent way that's going to keep him totally engaged in football in a way that I don't think you can manufacture for guys that have been playing since they were 7 years old. So he's still learning the nuances and falling in love with those things. He also, and I think I told you this after the Senior Bowl, but I've since followed up with more of those guys. Every single defensive lineman that went against him in one-on-ones, it's the toughest part of the week. Every single player, when asked who was the toughest player to go against, said Max. Every single one. And I'm not talking about 3 guys. I'm talking about 15 guys. And that should tell you a lot in an environment that is meant to be competitive, that's meant to get the best out of you, that's meant to see, okay, you've been playing on a team, but now everybody's on the same playing field. Show us what you got. He was the best. He was by far and away the guy who competed, and they put him from center to left, right. He went all over the line, was playing. He's very versatile. And his body type and how he's hold weights and just the fact that he played basketball and how nimble he is on his feet and his footwork and his hand technique is so good. I can't see him slipping out of the first round.
Impossible question to get right, but I don't care. It's you. I can ask it. Who's going to have a better NFL career? The number 10 pick in the 2026 NFL draft or Dexter Lawrence?
It's a great question. I trust John Harbaugh's evaluation. So I'm going to go with the more risky pick here, but I really trust Harbaugh, and he's totally reinvigorated being back. It's something weird, and we'll eventually get to the fishiness that was Baltimore. But I saw him at the ASU Pro Day, and I made a joke to him. He was waiting to get into the bathroom, and I told him I was going to charge him $10. And he burst out laughing, and he came out and he goes, "Hey, Anthony, you're pretty funny." I said, "Oh, I'm being serious. Where's my $10?" Right? And he started laughing, and then we interacted later on, and I was like, man, he's like a kid in a candy store. Like, he just mannerism-wise, body language-wise. And I love that he went into New York and said, listen, anybody can get it. Everybody's got to prove it. And if you don't want to be here, you don't need to. And then he said, yeah, well, Dexter, you want more money? See ya.
Yeah.
Like, he's setting the tone, and that's what needs to happen. The Giants have slowly crept closer to becoming the New York Jets. And the Giants need to set the tone, and there needs to be football culture of winning. And I think that's what John Harbaugh is doing. So I trust him in his evaluation. There's a lot of good players in this draft. I think he's going to get a top tier talent at pick number 10.
In your trips to the draft, in your trips to Mobile, talking to John Harbaugh at bathrooms, all the places that Paige has been, and the people that you know, the AGMs you talk to, the scouts, the GMs you talk to, why do certain teams excel? I don't, yeah, they got great players, but they're good at the draft. They're good at other things. When you talk to Ravens people, when you talk to teams that consistently win, Patriots, granted, it's not hard. You go from a guy like Brady to Drake May, you're going to succeed. But a lot of people didn't like Drake May. So what is it that great organizations have that average and pathetic ones don't have?
They have great process. And I think that's the thing I can tell you. I was just in LA with the Rams organization. They had me out there and I was shooting some content with their general manager, Les Snead, and with Sean McVay. And to me, there is good process in tandem with trust between the head coach and the general manager. And there was a time where I saw that up close and personal with the Arizona Cardinals, where you had Steve Keim with Bruce Arians together. There was a trust factor that eventually Steve started to think too highly of himself. That's it. That's like,
where did you put that nicely?
And that happens to the best of us. And especially in this industry, it is really hard for some of these guys who, for the first time in their life, are getting a lot of attention from media and outside, and start to believe that. And the people that are the best at this are consistent. They're the same on Monday that they are the day of the Super Bowl. Their process is very good. They trust the people that are involved in their organization, meaning the head coach and the general manager, and they do not have a meddling owner. That is a big component of this. If you have an owner who meddles in your business, it is nearly impossible to have success. Because the reality is, if you are the owner of an NFL team, you are a business person in some capacity, and you have things to do outside of just running the football organization. And a lot of these people have jobs that they are very wealthy outside of this football organization. Mm-hmm. And the ones that I find that are hands off are the ones that have the most success. The Kroenke family owns multiple teams across multiple sports. They've had a success. The Denver Nuggets and the LA Rams. You think about they are staying the hell out of the way and enjoying watching the valuation of their organizations go like this, because that's what winning does. And the best owners stay the hell out of the way. They hire really good people. They trust those people, and those people have process. And I think those are, if I can take what is, quite frankly, a podcast discussion of a question that we could break down all the nuances, it really comes down to that head coach, general manager, the process, and a meddling owner that stays out of the way.
Which is why I'm fascinated by the Suns, because to say something incredibly arrogant, I know more about the sport than every owner in sports, I feel like. I know that. I know. Except the Suns. I know that man knows more about basketball than I do. And it makes me feel very uncomfortable. And I don't even want to talk to him about it, because I don't want him to know. I don't know as much as he does. I want to fake it. Like, if I keep my mouth shut, maybe he'll think I'm smart. But I can't wait to see how the Suns do. Who is a player you can't wait in this draft to see where he goes, to see the scheme fit, that you know he's got more than other people see?
I'm really excited about wide receiver Casey Concepcion from Texas A&M. I love this kid.
You don't think he'll get broken in half? Because I kind of think he's going to get broken in half.
He's too tough for that. This is a tough kid. He played in the SEC. He's a tough kid. He's been through a lot. I love just his ability to go up to the podium, knowing that he was going to struggle through it with his stutter. Takes a lot of courage to do that and do it the way that he did it. If you put his tape on, it'll be some of the most fun tape you're going to watch from anybody on this class. Mm-hmm. He can run every route. He's faster than people think that he is. And he just loves playing football. There's no That's the question that every general manager wishes they could get an authentic answer to. It's, do they love football? Because there's a lot of people that play the game for a lot of different reasons, but the guys who have the most success are when the football character lines up with the talent. And that's exactly what I see from Casey Concepcion. He's a super, super talented football player, but also a great guy off the field and plays the game for the right reasons.
If you're a general manager, how many edge rushers are there in this draft that you would run to the podium for?
Oh, that's a tough question. The thing about this class is that there's a lot of guys that we like. There's not as many guys that I'm like in love with though. And that's because you can pick apart different guys for different reasons. One of them being, obviously everything that happened with Ruben Bain and then the measurables. Like, I can't say I'm going to run to the podium for a guy who's got questions off the field and already has short arms, right? David Bailey is a guy who we really like, but it's not like a Myles Garrett level class where you're like, okay, this is a guaranteed thing. I like some of these guys. I think there's a lot of guys who, if I was picking in the back half, the 20s, I would feel really good about being able to get a talented player that I'm going to get some value on. But I probably would stick with maybe 2 to 3 guys as a whole that I would be like super. David Bailey being one of them. I really like Akeem Messidor, even though he's 25. His tape is really, really good. I like Ruben Bain. I don't love Ruben Bain. Zion Young is a kid from Missouri who I really like his tape, really liked him at the Senior Bowl. So that's probably the 3 I would mention. And then Ruben Bain's tape, I know how good it is, but I can't unknow the things that he's done off the field. And that has to be a serious question mark for organizations, especially when you're talking about depending on what market you're going to be in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not drafting him in Miami. I'm not drafting him in Scottsdale to come to Arizona, right? Green Bay, they may want to take a shot. Cleveland, sure. Go somewhere where there's less distractions and less shenanigans off the field, but not a place where driving 115 miles an hour is easy because the weather is always nice. Probably not going to be me.
So Phoenix and the Raiders are out.
Yes, and Miami. Those are the 3 places that you got to be really damn sure that you got high football character when you're drafting somebody.
The great Bob McManaman comes on once a week, and he said something really interesting because the question became, what if the Jets really do take David Bailey, as the rumor started about a month ago? Yeah. And I asked him about Arvell Reese, and he said, no. I have seen Isaiah Simmons. I have seen Hassan Reddick. I have seen Zaven Collins. I don't want another player where the Cardinals don't know how to use them. Now, this is Nick Rallis. He's not the former defensive coordinator, but I admit it was a really interesting point. We're smart enough to know, don't compare him to the organization that screwed up 3 other guys, and they're 3 completely different guys. But it's still a really interesting point. So I ask you, would you be happy if the Cardinals selected Reese?
I would be, because I think Arvell Reese is more talented than all of those guys that we mentioned before. I understand. I liked Isaiah Simmons.
I did like Isaiah Simmons.
So did I. But yeah. I think schematically, when you're talking about where they were drafting him and what was going to happen, we had question marks immediately. How is this player going to be used? And they didn't have answers.
Yeah.
Right? They did not. Immediately, there were no answers. I have more faith in the new regime than I did what was going on back then. I do think that this organization and Mike LaFleur is going to do things his way. It's going to take some time, but he's going to get it right. I have more faith in the organization than I've had in quite some time. And it's just because I've had some time to talk to ththese guys. So
why do you have more faith?
Just honestly, it seems like they've finally figured out that they need good process. Like it seems like they have process. They're going to stick to the process, and they're going to find players that fit alongside them. I know it was really hard to make the decision with Kyler. I know that did not come very easily, but it was the right one. And I think I'd give the organization a lot of kudos for doing what a lot of organizations wouldn't do just financially, because the time had come to make that decision. And I think they're heading in the right direction because of that process. Now, will the owner get themselves in trouble by getting involved? To be determined. Is this head coach, general manager combination going to work well together? Are they going to respect each other? Is it going to be a good working relationship? Those are all the things that are to be determined. I think they have the bones to get there, but I obviously need to see this year play out and see how they manage things before we get excited about it.
Do you ever draft for need?
In a perfect world, no. In a perfect world, the best organizations don't put themselves in positions to have to draft for need. They handle themselves properly with free agency and how they manage the draft to be able to say, hey, now I'm picking here. I don't need anything. Now we know that that's not how it goes for every organization, i.e. the New York Jets, who've been looking for a quarterback for my entire life. But, there are the best organizations, to your question a few minutes ago, right? When you're looking at who does it best, right? I think the Rams are a really good example of how you utilize free agency and bringing in a guy like a Matthew Stafford, right? But then also having really good process where you trust your scouts to get a guy like a Puka Nacua in the 5th round, right? And you're utilizing everything because it takes free agency and draft capital and hitting on your draft picks to be able to build out a good enough franchise and a good enough organization that you can enter the draft and go, okay, we don't have to reach on insert this player, right? Or if you're the Rams, you come into this with 2 first-round picks and you can trade one away to get starter Trent McDuffie and put yourself in a really good position because there isn't a corner better than Trent McDuffie in this draft class. So those are the types of things I think are good examples of how that kind of all shakes out and works.
Because of our friendship and yet age difference, do you look at me as an older brother or a young uncle?
Which one would you prefer?
I'm not answering that. I'm asking you. You did not ask me to come on the Draft Network, or I would have answered if you are my super baby sister or my long lost niece.
That's so funny. Listen, I'm in my family. There's a lot of respect for the term "unk." Okay, that's like there are very few things in this world that are better than being unk. So let's just go with you're a cool unk. That's a better status for you in general. You're drinking a beer, you kind of have cool unk status. That's where you want to live.
Wearing my favorite Negro League t-shirt, but then I'm sucking up to a sponsor with the Trophy Club hat.
All good.
Favorite story of any kid in the 26th draft, like somebody in the Unplugged Army that's watching the draft. I don't care whether it's Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, and they draft this kid. I want somebody on the edge of their seat that's going, oh, I can't wait to hear them repeat what Paige told me.
Ooh, this is Zion Young. He is the youngest of 11 siblings. And he told me on and then off camera just how much of an ass whooping his life was, right? Just like a continuous just bout of getting your ass whooped. Like just every day, all day, every hour. He was like, because I asked him, I just said, listen, like it's one of the things the NFL kind of pays attention to is like, especially when there's a younger brother, got a couple older brothers, they are more resilient. They're tougher because they have to be. They have to deal with this. 11 siblings is a totally different ballgame. And he's like, listen, I literally woke up to get my butt whooped. Like that's what happened. And I just had to learn how to get tough. And you see how tough he is on the football field. And you're like, yeah, this makes so much sense. Like this kid literally was just getting beat up until he wasn't getting beat up anymore because he finally got tough. And that's what having that many older siblings will do to you. So yeah, if anybody gets Zion Young, just look forward to the funny stories about his childhood.
That's fantastic. All right, last question. Plug yourself. Even though we talked about the Draft Network early on, what all do people get if they get involved with you guys this weekend and really in follow up? Like what are you guys doing next week?
Yeah, honestly, this is my favorite time of the year because it's the draft. And then to me, it's more importantly, it's where all these picks land, right? So then it's really the time for us to evaluate and see the scheme fit and the organization and how they're going to be utilized. So, you can go to the draftnetwork.com. We have a premium selection right now. So if you join our premium audience, you're going to be a part of everything that we're doing during training camp and during rookie camp over the next couple of weeks. If you're going to be in Pittsburgh, we have an event that we're doing. I'm going to be posting on social media about it, that we're going to have prospects in there for interviews that I'm hosting. So that's going to be great, right downtown in the North Shore area. TJ Ward, former Broncos player, is going to be co-hosting a live show with me. So if you're going to be in Pittsburgh for the draft, obviously, please reach out to me on social media. I'll do my best to get back to everybody and let you know where we're going to be and what we're doing. And then obviously for all Cardinal fans, go to the draftnetwork.com and do a mock draft. I love seeing who you guys are taking at pick number 3. There's a lot of variance in this draft, so it's fun this time of the year because we're used to having kind of 1, 2, 3 or 1, 2, 3, 4 figured out, and we don't have any idea who the Jets are going to pick it to. And they're the biggest variable as far as an organization goes because they could do just about anything, and I wouldn't be surprised. So, yeah, that's the best way to get involved, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the Cardinals do at 3.
All right, love you. As soon as your world calms down, let's get a beer.
Sounds good. Thanks, Doug.